Hello students, welcome back. This is Mrs. Mercado speaking. This is Accounting 1303, Introduction to Accounting 1. This lecture covers a specific problem on Chapter 4, which deals with journalizing and posting transactions. And the textbook that we are using is College Accounting 23rd edition. Okay, I decided to do this supplemental video aside from the other video that I had already posted because I've seen students struggle with correcting entries. Okay, this problem that I'm going to be going over, you're going to be seeing it on your test. So I want to make sure that you understand how to do correcting entries. Okay, processing correcting entries is very important because mistakes are going to be done. Okay, we journalize something for either an incorrect amount, an incorrect account, whatever the case might be. We find out about it, we need to fix it. Okay, so students need to know how to be able to fix errors that have already been posted. Okay, so the problem that I'm going to be tackling is problem 411A. Like I said, you'll be seeing something similar to this on your test. You'll also have something similar to this on your homework so you can practice, okay? So it's very short. I shouldn't take very long explaining it, okay? So the problem deals with correcting entries. This is problem 411A from the end of your chapter. So it says, assuming that all entries have been posted, prepare correcting entries for each of the following errors. And then they give us 3 errors. Okay, so we're going to start with the first transaction. Okay, usually we put the date, but in this case they don't give us dates, so I'm just going to put transaction 1, 2, and 3. That way we identify it. Okay, so the first transaction says, the following entry was made to record the purchase of $700 in supplies on account. Now, in order to be able to make a correcting entry, first we need to understand what is it that we're doing, okay? What are we doing in this transaction, okay? Let me just, no fill, let me just mark this off. Give me a second, guys. Okay, so the problem says that we have to record the purchase of $700 in supplies on account. So what happened? I bought supplies and I promised to pay at a later point in time. Okay. Now let's look at the transaction that the accountant posted. The accountant posted a debit to my supplies account for $700, which is correct. Why? Because we bought supplies. So now you have more supplies of $700. That's awesome. Now, when they recorded the entry, they credited cash. Okay. Did we pay for these supplies with cash? The answer is no. It says here that you bought these supplies on account. Okay, so my entries to my supplies account is correct. I don't have to make any corrections there because I did buy supplies. So when I buy supplies, I debit my supplies account. Now the error here is that it shows that I paid with cash when I really did not pay with cash. Okay, I paid on account. So this entry to cash is incorrect. So I need to reverse it. Well, how do we reverse an entry? We do the opposite of what we initially did. So cash was credited $700. I'm going to reverse that. So now cash is going to be debited $700. So what that does, that washes off that transaction. You have a credit for $700. Now you have a debit for $700. That transaction zeroes out. It cancels out like it never happened. Now we need to record the correct entry. If I buy something on account, what account should I be using? Okay. Anytime you buy anything on account, you would be using the accounts payable. Okay. Accounts payable. Okay. You owe someone money because you bought supplies on account and you need to pay them. So whenever you owe money, we set up a payable. Okay. For $700. So the correcting entry would be to cancel off that incorrect entry to my cash by doing the reversal and then posting the correct account that I should have posted, which was my accounts payable, because we purchased the supplies on account. I do not have to do anything with supplies because that entry to supplies, a debit for $700, was correct. We are only focused on making the corrections to the accounts that are wrong. Okay. And then we can put here a description to correct error in which a purchase of supplies on account was credited to cash. Okay. Maybe I can just do the whole thing. To correct error in which I purchase. I need a new keyboard, guys. Purchase of supplies on account was credited to cash. There we go. That's a description. Okay. That's transaction 1. Now transaction 2 says, the following entry was made to record the payment of $450 in wages. So you are paying your employees $450 in wages. Well, what did they do here? They debited rent expense for $450 and they credited cash $450. Does rent have to do anything with paying your employees' wages? No. They made a mistake and they used the wrong account. Okay? So now we need to fix it. So, we were supposed to pay our wages. How do you pay your wages? You pay it with cash. Okay? So cash should have been credited $450. Cash is correct. We don't have to touch cash because that transaction was done correct. The one that was done incorrect was the rent expense. We're not paying for rent, we're paying for wages. So because my rent expense is incorrect, I need to do the opposite. I need to reverse it. So in this case, rent expense was debited for $450. So now I'm going to credit rent expense for $450. Okay? So now I have a debit to rent expense and I have a credit to rent expense. That washes off like it never happened. Now I need to record my correct transaction. What were we trying to pay? We were trying to pay wages expense. Okay? So wages expense is going to be debited to the correct account for $450. Okay? So what we did here is we reversed the incorrect entry to rent expense. You look at what you did. You debited rent expense. That was wrong. How do you fix it? You do the opposite, which is now you credit rent expense. That way they wash off. And then you record the correct entry. Okay? And the description for this can be to correct error in which a payment of wages was debited to rent expense. Okay? There we go. The last transaction that we have to fix, okay? Now in this one, it's very important that you really understand what is it that happened. In accounting, it's a lot of analyzing. It's what is it that's going on here, okay? Like here, it's talking about wages and somehow they debited rent expense. Rent has nothing to do with wages. You immediately know, you know what? They debited the wrong account. I need to fix that. Okay? I need to reverse my rent expense entry, which I did. Here it's a debit. To reverse it, you would have to credit it. Okay, now I need to actually post the correct entry to wages. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to debit my wages expense for the $450. We do not have to touch cash because cash was correct. Okay, when we pay our employees wages, how do we pay them? With cash. So your cash decreases because you're making a payment to your employees. Okay, the last transaction that we have here is the following entry was made to record a $300 payment to a supplier on account. Okay, so the entry was made to record a $300 payment to a supplier on account. So we're paying money to someone that we owe them on account. Okay, so we had bought supplies in the past on account. We owed that money. Now we're going to pay the money that we owe. Okay, so this one's a little bit more challenging. Okay, The first thing is, it says that you're making a payment for something you've already purchased. You've already purchased these supplies. Okay. Here, our supplies account is being debited. Are we buying any supplies today? No, the supplies have already been purchased. What we're doing today is making a payment for what we owe. So that entry to supplies is wrong. Okay, that entry was done when we bought the supplies last month. Okay, so that entry needs to be reversed. So supplies does not impact this transaction. I have a debit. So now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to credit my supplies to cancel that entry that was done in error. Okay, so I have a debit. Now I'm going to credit my supplies. Okay, now it says you are making a payment of $300 to a supplier on account. You owe money and now you're making a payment. When you make a payment for something that you owe, what account are we going to offset? Okay, we're going to offset against our accounts payable. Okay, so on accounts payable, when you buy on account, you credit the account. You credit accounts payable. Okay, when you, on my accounts payable, when you make a payment, you debit accounts payable. Okay, so if you buy something on account, you're going to credit accounts payable. If you make a payment, if your accounts payable, when you make a payment to what you owe, then you debit accounts payable. In this case, we are making a payment. Okay, so accounts payable, when we make a payment, we need to debit accounts payable. Okay, so I'm going to debit accounts payable. How much is my payment? $300. Now let's look at cash. It says that the entry was to record a $300 payment to a supplier on account. Cash only got credited for $100. Did we owe $100 or did we owe $300? Well, according to the problem, we owe $300. And yet we only recorded an entry for $100 to reduce our cash. So now I need to make an adjustment to my cash account to reflect my actual payment of $300. I had already recorded $100, so now I'm left to record $200. Okay, so if you see, this is a little bit more complicated because the cash account was done for the incorrect amount. The supplies account was incorrectly used, so it had a little bit more challenge to it. Okay, but it's just a matter of understanding. Okay, you're making a payment to a supplier for $300. Okay, immediately that number, let me just go right there. So it's saying here $300 payment to a supplier on account, yet on your cash you're only paying $100. So you shorted that supplier by $200. So you need to make an adjustment for that. Okay, so this is to correct error in which a $300 payment on account, oh sorry, I need a space, on account was recorded as a $100 cash purchase of supplies. Okay, so it says to correct error in which a $300 payment on account was recorded as a $100 cash purchase of supplies. So we have to clearly understand what happened. Well, we were trying to make a $300 payment to a supplier that we owed money. Okay, the supplies, we already recorded them in our books when we bought those supplies. So right now, all we should have done is debit our accounts payable and credit our cash for $300. That's not what the accountant did. The accountant recorded supplies of $100, which has nothing to do with $300 up here, cash of 100, which has nothing to do with the $300 payment. So now based on this, we have to make the corrections. Accounts payable is the account that should have been debited for the 300. Supplies is going to be reversed. That entry to supplies should have never been done. And then cash needs to be adjusted because they recorded cash of 100 when it should have been cash of 300. So I'm going to do a transaction for the difference. Okay. So these are 3 corrections that are taking place. Please make sure that you listen to the video. If you have any questions, you contact me. You are going to have this on your test, so it's very important that you understand how to make correcting entries. Okay, so that is basically it for this short chapter 4 lecture. Hopefully it'll help you with your homework problems and help you prepare for your upcoming tests. Thank you very much, and until next time.